So let me do that. Yeah, so we're gonna have this discussion just to learn more about the DC Retirement Board and the election. And Anthony was kind enough to fill out our questionnaire and was able to make it. We did have two people fill out our questionnaire of the, I believe, five candidates. I know we sent it not that long ago, so it's understandable that maybe people didn't get to see it or didn't have time to fill it out. But we are glad that you're here for sure, and certainly interested in learning more about what's going on. So, and dear Elizabeth, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute as well. We'll keep it pretty informal.
I
Um,
just wonder, could we start from like the basics, like super basic? Because like I didn't understand what most of the words that y'all were just saying.
Sure.
I
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's
So
maybe
maybe
just like even just what is the position as you understand it that you're running for?
As I understand it, uh, as a layman and as a teacher, it is that there are a certain number of positions that are for one active teacher, one retired teacher, one active firefighter, one retired firefighter, and then a certain number that are appointed by the city council and by the mayor. And those people are charged with uh, being the safeguard and being the voice of reason and making sure that the pension funds that we have are mathematically sound, that they are wisely invested, and that they are, yeah, well administered. So that is, as I understand it, as an outsider, what I hope I am running for in this position. So,
And I guess if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, like what brought you to
thank you.
wanting to run for this?
Yeah, I really would like to. I feel like that'd be a good thing to start with. I have 7 years of DC public school teaching experience. This is my 8th year. Now, I know that that's less than any of the other five candidates, but I want to tell you that that is actually a strength, not a weakness. Being outside of DC public schools has allowed me to see some other systems, some other pensions, and to kind of see what our competition is and to see what it maybe we might want to move towards. One of the greatest parts is I can look at my log into the other system that I have retirement with, and I can see that it says, can you live on $4,300 per month? Because that's how much it says it will give me when I retire. I would love to be able to log in to the DC Public School Pension Fund and see that quote, something that says, could you live on roughly X? And yeah, I feel like that is one of the biggest pieces that I think is missing is that there just doesn't seem to be a way of interacting with our pension. And as teachers, one of the biggest things we want to do is to be able to be empowered to know when we can retire, what we can expect when we can retire, and to like be able to take charge of our own lives. And I guess the thing that I'm running for, or the reason I want to run, is because I want badly to have that information. When I came back after I spent 5 years teaching at DC public schools in the early thousands, and then I went away and I've come back. And when I came back, I bought back my years of service and I had to like try and get in touch with the pension board. I wanted to buy back my years of service and I had to send multiple emails. And it took a long time, I believe several months, trying to ask and ask and ask again. It felt like I was emailing a black box. And it didn't make me super hopeful. I read that when I want to retire, that it's going to be easy or that it's going to be great to get information from. I did read through all of the things on the DC Pension Board website at that time. I tried to read the report to make sure that when they did eventually give me a quote for how much it would cost to buy back 5 years of teaching service, I wanted to make sure that if you're going to hand someone a check for some number of thousands of dollars that you're buying a real, stable something. And it looks to me from the report like it's managed well and that the math is sound, but the communications are terrible, is basically what I'm seeing. So the thing that needs to be fought for more than anything else, in my mind, is that there's some way to interact with our pensions and that there's some way that we can uh, get the pension board to have fairly interactive website that tells us what it is that we're saving for, how much we put in each and every year of our service, how it is that that's going to come out. I mean, they know through PeopleSoft what our high 3 years of salary are. That's a computation that they could make, and there's a formula that says how much we should be getting per year of service for every additional year. So it seems like they should be able to give me something like what I've been seeing at the place that I left, where it's, can you handle living on X number of thousands of dollars when you retire at age 67? And that changed a little bit if you want to change it down to 65 or change it up to 69 or, you know, but those kind of computations seem like they would be standard in the industry, and yet I don't see them here. So I guess that's the reason I'm running.
Elizabeth or Dieter, do y'all have any questions about is it the retirement board or position or for Anthony in particular?
I must have answered every question perfectly. That's all right. Yeah.
Yes. What is what is it that could or should be changed? You said the communications piece, which I think that's like across the board, everything with DC. But what else? Is there anything that should be changed?
Well, I think that there needs the communication piece, in my mind, is a web page where we can interact with our own numbers and our own pension. I know how many years of service I've given to DC Public Schools. It would be great if I could see that they've properly recorded even the 5 years that I bought back and the 2.5 years that I've worked now. It would be really, to be honest, I feel like the biggest communication piece that we should be seeing is that we should be able to interact with our own numbers and our own pension. And yeah, it would also be great if there was, quarterly or yearly communication about how the fund is doing and how it's been invested. Though I think the reason that they don't do that is that in the up years it looks great, and in the down years it looks like we should panic. And hopefully it does seem that they've been investing it in a way that rounds out those so that the ups aren't quite as up and the downs aren't quite as down, which is, standard practice in pensions. But it would be good to see how they're doing it. It would be good to know those details and to have those reported. But the biggest piece for communication to me is how is it affecting me and you and each individual teacher?
I do remember like a few odd years. I'd have to go look through like my literal papers because we did send out like I don't know, it was annual. There's a couple years in there where I got something. I don't know if it was every year or if it was like kind of very sporadic, just a year it would pop up and then a different year it would pop up. But there was like a report. It had like my name on it. And like, I mean, it had just mostly general information, but then there was like one section that I think was kind of tailored. Like it was like a little, foldable. I don't know. I'd have to go look, but I
Okay.
mean, it's obviously not happened very often. And like I do
Yeah.
know it happened like right, maybe twice, three times in my 18 years in DCPS, but
I've heard that same thing from some of the teachers who I've talked with at my school and at a couple others, I guess, that there's, sometimes there was a report that you got to see and it was on paper. And I'm like, well, paper's good. It would be a start. I'm not against it, but I genuinely feel that there should be a web page that you can log in with, probably through PeopleSoft. Or if it's strictly through our union, then we could set up a different system where we would be able to interact with our own numbers and our own pension from our salary and our years of service and see all the details and also see the report that is actually available, but not very prominently available, talking some about how the pension invests the money in those things. Those things all should be interactable in my mind.
when it comes to like, I assume part of the role, right, is like accountability, just seeing like, is the money being invested properly, not being siphoned off? Are the fees for whatever, how they're
Yeah.
being managed? Like, what do you feel like experience you bring to being able to kind of parse those documents and be able to like ask questions and things like that?
Well, I guess as an amateur investor myself, one of the biggest things that I try to find is where am I going to pay the lowest fees and how can I get a broadly diversified group of assets as it goes? Because I feel like both those things are pretty critical. When you have the kind of money that a pension fund has, you should have extraordinarily low fees. The more money you have as an individual, there's, often as you move up in the tiers, your fees will go down slightly. But the pension starts at a pretty high tier. We should have very low fees, and it wasn't clearly put in the report that I could see which fees we are paying. No one manages money for free, and we do need to pay the staff at the DC Pension Board who are doing both the investing and making of the letters and doing the administration. We need to pay them well. But how much is that overhead? And is there a way that a lot of what we're doing right now could be done on a spreadsheet? When I was asking for how much it would cost to repurchase my 5 years of service, it felt like I needed to get someone individually to spend their time and actually like with an abacus compute it or something. And it was puzzling to me that this wasn't a standard, that it hadn't been standardized to the point where it could be yeah, handed out at a moment's notice.
Um, this is more for my own edification. I don't know if you know. It's okay if you don't, but like kind of who does have power over our pensions? Like, right? Is it the DC Council and the mayor are kind of in control? Is it truly a separate entity
Well,
from the government?
theory, the in theory, the control is the people on the retirement board, though I'm guessing that because the mayor and the city council are the ones who elect most of the seats, I believe, it is good that we are represented and that there's an active teacher and a retired teacher and an active firefighter and a retired firefighter. All those things are good, and it's good to have a seat at the table. But I do believe that the majority of the control is probably the mayor and the city council. If big changes wanted to occur, then we would need to be talking with them to try to make that happen. So,
I feel dumb for not knowing this, but do you know what happens to the pension if you don't reach the DCPS retirement criteria?
so, from what I've seen, it depends on they have a basic, formula where if you're going to retire before you hit 60 or the number of 30 years or all those things, by the time you get to wait until you turn that age. So you could work somewhere else, and then when you do turn 60, you would get some portion of your pension. If you've worked even 5 years, you could, you know, from 20 to 25 work, and then when you turn 62, you could start receiving some pension. It wouldn't be very much, and it wouldn't be very impressive, especially because if it would be so long ago that the inflation would have made it really unimpressive. But you would get the pension. You do, yeah, get what you put in. It's a formula based on your years of service. The first 5 years, you get 1.5% times your high 3 years of service. So year one, 1.5%, year two, 3%, 4.5, And then after that, the next 5 years, you'd get 1.75%, a little higher. And then after that, you'd get 2%. So if you've been there longer than 10 years, you're getting 2% added to your pension each and every year that you add of service. And you're paying on your paycheck 8%. So you aren't getting it for free, but you're getting it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was looking
I
up
hope
all
I make it though.
me too, me too. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, and like you can get my understanding is right, like 60 is like 60% is full retirement. But that you could keep going and that would continue to add percentages to it as you continue.
Yeah, I think
Does
you
it
could.
just cap and then you're just kind of stuck?
Well, 2% gets added for every additional year of
Okay.
service. So I would think you could pretty much work until you were at well,
Not
100.
that high, but
Yeah. If you're willing
you
to
would
work till
still
you're
get more.
75, you could probably do amazing on your pension. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no, we all want to get to the right place. I mean, the thing that we want to do is to know when we would have enough money to retire. The reality is that every teacher out there is at least thinking when the next phase of life might be and what that might be. But right now, I don't feel like we're really, I mean, do you know how much you would get as a your pension if you were to retire tomorrow? I don't know if
There's
I.
that little calculator, but I don't know how accurate it is. Like you can kind of put in a bunch of things,
Yep.
right? And it spits
Yep.
out a number. I'm like, well, maybe that number.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a good thing to, I feel like, empower our teachers to really know those things. The other thing that I would love to do, and I don't know if the DC Pension Board actually has power to do it, is that we can, as teachers, take extra money out of our paycheck and put it into different plans. And some of those plans have incredibly high fees. And yeah, there's a 2% management fee that's on top of the fund fees at one of the funds that I explored when I first got back in, and I feel like that's highway robbery. I don't know anyone who charges 2%, and even a private wealth advisor charges you 1%. And so, yeah, it feels like we're, as teachers, not being offered the best deal when we are asked if we want to make additional contributions to our retirement to be able to, make sure we're able to meet our retirement goals. So I would love to be at a place where we could get teachers to be able to put it directly in a low cost uh, fund like the Vanguard or Fidelity or some of those where it has a 0.006% as the fund fee and not much else. I feel like those things would make a huge difference over time in how well teachers could retire if they do have the wherewithal to contribute some more than the 8% of their pension. But once again, I don't think the pension board is in charge of that. I do think that the union does negotiate for those things, though. I've been trying to bug the right people about that, and I don't know if I've been able to
Yeah,
do
I
it.
found that to be pretty confusing as well in terms of like, is that really part of the contract negotiation? Because they don't make it seem like it is really negotiable in that sense, like that we could negotiate how much DCPS might contribute into other funds, but that which funds are offered seems not, I mean, we certainly don't see it in our contract, right? Like, so
Yeah,
then if it's not on that piece of paper, then where else would it be, right? So it
very
is
good.
kind of like a question of like, right, where are those decisions being made and why are we stuck with some of the companies we're stuck with? Because I know
Yeah.
I gave to MetLife for a long time. And then
Yep.
we got a presentation from someone from DCPS and he was just doing it on his own time. Like it wasn't an official presentation. He's basically like, these are terrible. And
Right.
y'all should go into the 457. That's your best bet. And so,
Yeah,
a bunch of us did, but like 403, you can't merge those. So like I was stuck, like I could zero out what I was going to put in moving forward, but I couldn't remove that money because it's two different tax designations.
exactly.
And I mean, I think the one we even have for the 457 isn't like the best, but it is better than the
Right.
403B options. But it's still
Yep.
like rated a B in a lot of the websites I've seen, which is not an F.
No, it's
It's not
not.
an A.
It still isn't. Yeah, exactly. And why is it that we can't put our money in something that is an A and highly rated and has super low fees? Yeah,
I
that's
know we had TIAA CREF
yeah,
right when I got here, and then it disappeared.
yeah,
Like with by 2008, it was gone. So like I don't know, and I don't know if people got grandfathered in and could stay, or if they like forced everyone out. I don't know, but all I know is it was there and then it was gone. I was like, oh, I missed the boat somehow.
yeah. I have TIA CREF as the place that manages the retirement at one of the schools that I used to work at, and I think they do a very good job. But yeah, we're apparently not contracting with them. So, but
Um,
yeah, that might be something to fight for.
yeah, is there any like final words you want to give before we pause this conversation?
I would say I hope that TC teachers are finding a way to be successful and educated in the vote that they make for the DC Retirement Board. I think it makes it's one of the small roles that I feel could have a big difference in our future. So I do hope that people will consider my candidacy, but if they don't, that we all find a way to make our retirement system better, whether or not it's me or anyone else there. We're in it to win it together, and I do hope it'll go well.
I definitely appreciate your time and thank you for engaging with us. It was a small group. As you just joined us, I did record it, so I'll put it out to definitely our mailing list and probably just up on like the Facebook group for those who are just interested in hearing our conversation and looking at an adorable baby. And I'm going to stop the recording. Here we go. Goodbye, recording. All right. I think I stopped it. Nope.